The evening light cast long shadows across the apartment as Emma sat across from Ryan, the weight of 7 years together hanging in the air between them. At 31, she had built a life with this man, a man whose time on earth was quietly slipping away with each passing day. Ryan, 33, had first captured her heart with his infectious laugh and unwavering optimism, despite the disease that lurked beneath his smile. His condition, one that mercilessly shortened his life expectancy, had never defined their relationship. Instead, it had given their love a sense of urgency, a preciousness that many couples never experience. In the early days, their conversations had painted a beautiful future. Marriage vows exchanged under a canopy of flowers, the pitter-patter of little feet across hardwood floors, Sunday mornings spent in a sun-drenched kitchen of a house they'd make into a home. These weren't just daydreams. They were promises whispered in the dark, plans etched into their hearts. Emma remembered clearly the night she had first shared her values with Ryan. They'd been dating less than a year, curled up on his second-hand couch. When she explained that while she was open to having children, she would never bear a child with a man who hadn't committed to her through marriage first. Not because of tradition or religion, but because she believed that children, the ultimate commitment, deserved the foundation of parents who had formalized their commitment to each other. If a man doesn't love me enough to pledge his life to mine, she had explained, her fingers intertwined with his, why would I make the sacrifice of caring and raising his children? Ryan had nodded then, seemingly understanding. He'd kissed her forehead and changed the subject to the movie they were about to watch. The conversation, though important, had been filed away as something for someday. That someday had arrived without warning when Ryan broached the subject of children earlier that week. I think we're ready, he had said over dinner, his eyes bright with hope. Let's start trying for a baby. The fork had frozen halfway to Emma's mouth. But we're not married, she'd replied, confusion creasing her brow. Ryan's enthusiasm had faltered, replaced by an awkward silence. I don't want to get married, he finally admitted. Men get screwed over in divorces all the time. Marriage is just a piece of paper. It doesn't prove anything about how much I love you. Emma had set down her fork then, her appetite gone. The painful irony wasn't lost on her. Ryan feared the potential end of a marriage that hadn't even begun, while willingly pursuing parenthood, a bond that could never be dissolved. That's fine, she had said quietly. We don't have to get married. I'm happy with our life as is. Her voice had remained steady as she continued. But we won't be buying a house together or having children together. If we aren't getting married, I don't want to entangle our finances or our DNA. His reaction had been explosive, anger masking the hurt beneath. You're punishing me for not wanting to marry you, he'd shouted, pushing away from the table. Now, days later, they sat in the gathering darkness of their shared apartment, the tension between them thick enough to touch. I'm not punishing you, Emma said softly, breaking the silence. I'm honoring my values. Having children outside of marriage goes against what I believe is right for me, for any potential children, and even for you. She reached across the space between them, but stopped short of touching him. I also won't accept a shut-up ring, something you give me just because you want kids. That's not a marriage. That's a transaction. I want you to actually want to marry me. And if not, that's okay. Children and marriage are simply off the table for us. Her next words came out barely above a whisper. If having children now is what you need, then maybe you should find someone who shares your views on marriage. And maybe I could find someone who wants what I want. Marriage first, and then maybe children. Ryan's eyes glistened with unshed tears as the reality of their impasse sank in. The disease that had always lingered in the background of their relationship suddenly thrust itself center stage. Time, his most precious and limited resource, was running out. But you know my situation, he said, his voice cracking. If I don't have kids soon, I probably shouldn't have them at all. I want to see my children grow up, Emma. I want to be there for as much of their lives as I can. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence that followed. Each second marking the countdown, neither of them could stop. Emma felt the weight of his words, the unfairness of his circumstances. She loved this man deeply, enough to spend 7 years building a life with him. But was love enough to compromise her fundamental values? Could she separate her desire for marriage from her willingness to have children? Or was Ryan asking too much of her, expecting her to abandon her principles because time was not on his side? As the last light faded from their apartment, two people who loved each other deeply found themselves at a crossroads, each holding fast to what they believed was right. The question hung between them, unanswered. In a relationship where time is limited, who should compromise on their vision of the future? What would you do in Emma's position or in Ryan's? Is standing firm on personal values worth potentially losing the person you love? Or is compromise even on the biggest decisions the true measure of love? Share your thoughts in the comments below.